you can see where maybe some woman had a certain type of chrysanthemum that she gave her neighbors. You go to this neighborhood and you see that flower over and over. And it becomes like a part of the whole landscape. And these craftspeople grew up out of that same kind of way. And so that was the passed down thought part of it. You know, 2 or 3 people might have learned from their grandpa. They might have taught somebody down. Years later, you see this figure that looks like this thing from 100 years ago. And so it's just like a never-ending creek. And so this culture is on the danger zone, in my opinion. It looks like a vapor of this lost culture. And the disturbance that's happened is the internet, you know, and it's continuing to happen. Not that I'm against the internet, because right in this world, but there is where people, once computers wanted to be like people, now people are becoming more like computers, you know, and to save what's left of this culture. And when I read in books where they describe Southern Appalachian people, you know, these people, our families that have lived here so long, we're described as low income. That's our description. You know, you should not be described by how much money you have. You should be described by your family, your history, your abilities. And so one of the reasons I still work for the Southern Highland Craft Guild, because that's one of my life things, is it's like my ancestors, they lived here. They were able to survive. And not only do that, they made beautiful things that were functional. And I want us to be known for our own culture, not just how much income we might have. And so Harold Garrison is an example of that. Bill Henry is an example of that. And it's a question of acknowledgement.
Hello, I'm Tim Barnwell, and I'd like to welcome you to the Face of Appalachia, where we honor the people, vibrant culture, and strong traditions of the mountains we call home. In my grandparents' day, most kids didn't get many toys for Christmas. In my family, a piece of fruit or a much-needed item of clothing were more typical gifts. Of course, everyone wished for a bicycle or a wagon or a doll, things they saw in the store window or in a Sears catalog. But cash money was hard to come by, so many of the toys were handmade, often by a parent or a relative. Over the years, I've met a number of people who made handmade toys and crafts from natural materials. We'll highlight 5 of them here. I sat down with my friend Janet Wiseman at the Folk Art Center in Asheville, North Carolina, to talk about some of these folks. One of our mutual friends was Harold Garrison, a toy maker who towered 6 foot 10 inches tall. And stood even taller when he had this big stovepipe hat he wore. I remember being at an outdoor music festival in Asheville one summer, looking over the sea of people and seeing this big stovepipe hat walk across, and I knew Harold was there. Harold's friend Brown Norton of Madison County, North Carolina, also made many handmade wooden items, including toys and flowers, after he was injured in a farm accident. We'll talk with his son Buster, who will show off some of his father's creations and describe how they were made. Janet Morris of Black Mountain, North Carolina, made crafts as a way of supporting her 6 children after her husband died in 1972. She made cornshuck dolls and angels and all sorts of wheat weavings that she sold at craft fairs. Bob Miller made a variety of children's toys and shared them with the young folks who came through the cradle of forestry in Pisgah National Forest, where he sat on the porch of an old commissary building, entertaining visitors with his tall tales. Another woodworker was Bill Henry from Greeneville, Tennessee. He was a master whittler and made jackstraws, which were part of a game like pick-up sticks. He worked at the Oak Ridge National Laboratories, and in his downtime, he used an electrician's knife to whittle his miniature creations. Hopefully you enjoy getting to know these fascinating and talented people, and maybe these toys will bring back some great memories from your childhood. So tell me, when did you meet Harold Garrison?
Well, that was early on, mid-90s, and he participated in an event that we had called, it was originally called Celebrate Folk Art, and then it became Heritage Day. He also participated in the World Jihad Women Diddle competition. And the first thing that I noticed about him, which is what most people noticed, was how tall he was. He was probably about 7 foot tall, I'm assuming, and quite skinny, slim. And he was called High Pockets. We called him High Pockets. And the thing about Harold, that he had a magnetic personality, but he didn't really talk much, as far as like a lot of people that attract people that or craftspeople or musicians that demonstrate or whatever. They're talkers. But what interested me about Harold was that he wasn't reticent, but he was careful with his words. But what he did say was something that you wanted. It was interesting. It was something that you wanted to pay attention to. And the thing that he had a kind of a mechanical mind, as far as like making something long before the upcycling fad. He was making toys out of his old skull cans. And he was making these amazing dioramas where we would have a lever that would attach to another part of it, and everything would move. And often they were political. So it's like too far to the right, too far to the left, wavering in the middle. And he would get a kick out of people's reaction to that.
I make a hillbilly yo-yo. Did you see those? Out of a skull. Snuff it up. I can't stand it. I take those and I don't make any now because I had a good supply. Sometimes they used to, back yonder, I'd start making them. And if everything was running good, I kind of made them when I got tired of it. I wound up one time with about 1,500 G.O. women did. So I didn't have to make any women did. I could spend all my time on something else. And I like to do that, really, is to get caught up on something. If you're in a strain all the time of making stuff, it gets to be aggravating. And I kind of use it as a hobby. I've got a dancing doll. I think it's a dancing doll right here. I made one, put ankle joints in one. That's the only one I ever made. It's too much trouble. But I did one. It dances pretty good.
How many different kind of toy things did you make?
I used to make climbing bears. I used to make napkin holders out of take a chicken, sort of, cut it out, split it right down through here into the mouth, and put a clothespin in it. And use mashes back there and put a recipe in there, and it's sitting right there looking right at you. Stuff like that, And I all started off on these old guns, and I'm kind of short. I'm just about out of everything. And I can't do what I once could. First place, I can't see. Now I can see to do anything. All like that. When it gets down to fine details, I'm not there as much as I used to be. Now I used to make wooden flowers. I always wanted to do something that I wasn't doing. Just anything that I wasn't doing. But I reckon that's part of life, I think.
And you say he and Harold Garrison used to travel the same shows?
Yes, he and Harold Garrison. Harold Garrison was one of his good friends, and they would get together at the shows, and Harold would, I think he kind of looked after my dad when he went to the shows, made sure he had his stuff, and of course he was a good friend, and they would make different crafts. Harold was a fun-loving man, told a lot of stories, a lot of jokes and things, and kept things lively. It's kind of when you're making crafts, sitting at the craft show, it's most people just going by and looking, and if you've not got anything to say, it gets kind of boring, you know, and people expect you to say something, you know, to them. But he always had something to say. He always had a little joke to crack or a little funny story to tell, and entertain people that way. He was good, real nice man, and made the crafts for us. My dad whittled this out when about 50 years ago, probably in the early 70s, and he made it small, one piece of wood. He traveled about from different shows and different craft shows and things, and heard about these being made, and so he tried one and made a success out of it. It's made out of one piece of wood. He starts with the big end and starts breaking that down and whittling it back the length he wants it, and then he starts up on the handle and whittles down and makes those splits. They're real thin, and he used a pocket knife and split those down and peeled them off and push them down in layers as it goes around. Tries to keep it all centered up in the layers, and once he gets them all whittled down, he takes a strip out of the handle and makes the band, and the band is made and fastened together in a little knot, a little latch that he makes out of the band. He made the flowers. They were pretty simple to make. He would get a little stick about the size of your finger, whatever size he wanted that flower to be, and he would split it down just like he did the broom where he started on it and make them flare out. But he enjoyed doing that. He couldn't walk. He had a tractor accident when I was younger, and he decided to get into this because he didn't have anything to do, and he wanted to do something to fill in time, and because he didn't think he was any benefit to anybody if he didn't do a little bit of work.
How old is this tradition?
It goes back to the Indians here in the Appalachians. The pioneer women would see that the Indians made Cornshuck dolls, which would be, usually the Indian dolls were made quite a bit different than what the pioneer women started doing. They would use the whole cob and everything and carve out where the neck was going to be and bring it back down and tie it, and then put shucks in for the arms and braid those. So it is different, but it
Now the Indians would do the carving of the cob.
Yeah. And in the early years, even when I was first in the 60s, when I was first going to the Craftsman's Fair, dolls did not have faces on them. The Indians would tell their little girls that the gods had stole their face because they were too vain. So that sent a message to the child. But then in the 70s, shops stopped accepting many dolls without faces because customers are coming in and say, "Oh, I want a face on it." I've had people come and ask me to put faces on my angel, and they really have to twist my arm to do it because, you know, your imagination puts a face on there if you want a face.
But the Whimididdle is the thing that's become, because the Guild used that as our first event in 1980, and Billy Ed Wheeler had a whole album on the Whimididdle, and it's set up. It's usually made out of rhododendron. There's still people making. Lyle Wheeler over in Wilkes County makes them. He also makes chairs the old-fashioned way. But what you're doing is this makes it go to the right, which is G, because you had a person running the mule, and he would say G to the right, ha to the left, whoa. And then to make it go left, you move your hand on a different part. And this was made by Bob Miller, who made a lot of folk toys. But the Whimididdle is probably the star of that old folk toy. And we still do that every year. We've got the World Jihong Whimididdle competition. This is not a souped up Whimididdle. The guys that win it now, they've got this whole thing that they've done to make the Whimididdle propeller. They paint them so that you can see better. But this is your basic. And it's gold plated, which basically meant Bob Miller had a can of gold spray paint.
So what all do you make here?
I make let's see now, these are spinning tops. This is a whimmy-diddle. This is a horseshoe puzzle. That's another puzzle. The old jumping jack. It goes way back. A flip ball. And the old toy originated in China about 700 years ago. I tell the kids, you know, you can put two can operate it, and I tell they don't have to be kids. My kids run from 0 to 90. So you can put your favorite girlfriend or boyfriend on one end. They trade messages for kisses. But then the old whimmy diddle, you know, we have a world championship and all at Folk Art Center, and of course I make them out of rhododendron wood, and it's the smartest wood around. And it trains easy like a good horse or mule or oxen or elephant, sled dogs. They all get trained G and ha. So I train each one of them. See, I tell it to go G and it goes to the right. Tell it to go ha and it goes left. G, ha. Then of course I make the old lumberjack. Well, he's one of the greatest of mine. He taught them all how to dance. He originated in the Appalachian Mountains. He was first called a poppet. And then somewhere down along the line, his name got changed a half a dozen different times. Finally, over the years, it settled down lumberjack. He can buck dance, I want you to know. He even taught old Michael Jackson down the moon.
Bill Henry, he was from Tennessee, and he was one of the biggest promoters of other people, heritage crafts. He worked with John Rice Irwin over there at the Museum of Appalachia. He insisted it was whittling. Right. He was not a carver. He had a nervous kind of personality in a way, and he had to do something with his hands all the time. But now that was a man with a real talent with wood. Yeah. I've got 2 sets of his jack straws. And you know, he was honored at the Smithsonian National Heritage Show, and he was I think pretty much it might have been a National Heritage Awardee. If he wasn't, it was because he was busy promoting someone else.
This, like I said, this jackstraw game, I do 25, this is kind of an arbitrary number, 25 different pieces in each set, one of which has a little wire hook on the end of it. So the idea is you hold that one aside, use it as a kind of a little tool to, after you drop the other 2 dozen pieces in a little heap, you take this thing, try to get them out of the one by one. I think of it as an adult pickup stick game. It's something that children don't really put enough thought to. They think they see something they want to get, they grab it, and so they can't. You got to give it a little bit of thought to it. But, and over time, you get kind of wacko. There's Dolly Parton's train rod here. Nancy Kerrigan, the sky skater, got hit on the knee. And there's a tooth, and there's a coon hunter's toothpick, and on and on.
We did an interview project, Lor Fay Dean and I, back then, and were lucky enough to really catch that last wave of people who, you know, they were so comfortable in their own skin. They did not need anybody to tell them whether they were cool or not. They didn't need social media likes. They were just themselves, and it didn't matter what you said or did. They were going to keep being themselves.
Funny how one hits on one side and one hits on the other side, isn't it?
Grandma and Grandpa playing with their toys.
Playing with their toys.
Well, these are the kids' toys, right?
I don't know where they are now. It's working pretty good for Grandma and Grandpa. They don't work too good with the kids.
If you share my interest in the people and places I call home, be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons to learn more about this way of life. On this channel, I hope to continue to honor the people, vibrant culture, and strong traditions of Appalachia.